Hey guys, how's everyone doing today?
Great.
Doing super well.
Good, good, good. I see that there's a lot of stuff been going on, so I just thought we'd have a quick little meeting and talk about changes that are happening and how the podcast is going and along those lines. First off, Mr. Sam Wiegert, thank you for the trust that you've given me with the brand of the UpLevel martial arts community. I am trying to be a really good steward of that and do some really positive
Yes,
things
sir.
with the podcast. And I would just like to see if you have any feedback from me right now on the episodes that
Okay.
have been released so far, and then we'll talk about some future episodes.
Yes, sir. First of all, it's been trust well placed in my experience so far. So thank you for everything you've done. I'm so excited about us getting out on different channels to reach out to more people. As far as feedback goes, I think you are getting into a groove. I got to be honest. I emailed you this about the Brother James podcast, and just said, look, at the end of the day, every person has their own style, and you're finding that style, and you're finding your groove, and you're going to soar with your strength. So I don't have any technical feedback for you, Mr. Guyton. I think you're doing a great job. I think you're digging into these people we're bringing on, and we'll bring on more guests in the future. I just think it's going to be just the fact that we're getting the word out there that there's a team of people called UpLevelers, black belt leaders in life, doing life like we do life, like we're striving to do life. Just people really trying to be the best versions of themselves. That's what I want to get out to the world. You're doing an amazing job of that. Keep it up. Let's get more guests on. Let's get more episodes out. Let's get more people listening to it. That's all my feedback for you right now.
Okay, beautiful. I do probably have to extend an apology to Mr. William Wiegert. That was a rough episode. I know that was the very first interview I did, as well as the very first one I edited, so I can definitely go back and listen to it now. And of course, I'm going to be my own worst critic. So I do owe you a very, very good episode in the future, and I do have plans for that. Uh,
Awesome. Well,
when
if
And
that
I
was
want
a
to
rough one, then I am thrilled to see what a great one looks like.
yeah,
right.
okay, all
Yeah,
right.
I just think I want to say this, Mr. Guyton, because I think you are living the black belt way in your own way through the podcast. You stepped out of your comfort zone. You're doing something new, which is like a lot of people who try martial arts for the first time. Quite frankly, that's their experience. I mean, a lot of people coming into our schools have never done martial arts before. So you've stepped out of your comfort zone. You're trying something new, and then you're just constantly like, okay, improving, tweaking. How can I be better? What can I do? So, I, I mean, you're on the path. The path is the way, right? Like you're doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think about that as I'm doing the podcast, that and something that I hope comes across to the audience is that, I am in it with you, and it's not like I'm some
Yeah,
kind of an expert trying to, you know,
right.
talk down to you or tell you this is the way. I am developing along with you.
Yeah,
And
you're a humble man.
oh, well, thank
It's
you.
awesome.
That's very kind of you. As far as future episodes, what we've got going right now is, of course, we've got the episodes that are out there, 1 through 5, I believe. Miss Abby Dyson, your sister,
Yes.
will be coming out next Tuesday. I can't remember the exact date, but I'm trying to do
Cool.
one every 2 weeks, because as the summer goes on and once the social distancing aspect gets released, I'm going to be getting super busy with a little side hustle that I have, and I might not have
Nice.
as much time. So what I'm trying to do now is stacking up enough
Mhm.
episodes up and
Cool.
release them once every 2 weeks, that we have enough backstock. And I want everything to be timely, but not timed or dated.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so
Yeah.
hopefully in the future we will get to where we do them once a week. But I
Yeah.
appreciate your understanding that I'm only one man. I have a full-time job. I have a family. I
Yeah.
have a little side hustle. Got a crazy dog and all that fun stuff, which you can hear if you listen very
Yeah. For
carefully
sure.
in the Brother James episode. I hit
Yeah.
mute real fast,
Yeah.
but it's okay.
Yeah. Well, if you're listening to this, maybe just give us some feedback. Let's get our listeners to give us some feedback on other guests that they would like to have on. Make sure you're sharing this. Give us a 5-star review. Like, let's help get this out, and the good work that Mr. Guyton is doing. Let's get it out to more people. So if you're listening, give us some feedback. Who would you like to see on? I think that'd be something really cool too, to get some
Yeah.
some
No,
potentials
Yes.
from our team.
a
And I,
couple of,
I love I love the fact that there's people that maybe the normal martial artists at UpLevel wouldn't know. Like Brother James, when I saw that episode, I was like, oh, that's so cool. Like nobody's gonna know who he is until they
Right.
realize the impact that he's made.
Yeah, that
So,
was a really great one because he was just like, man, the stuff that he was saying aligns perfectly with things I've been
Yeah.
thinking. And it was like, dude, get out of
Mhm.
my head. And,
Right.
just, when I'm going like, wow, amazing. I'm like sitting there going like, how do I respond to this and not sound like a, fanboy?
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
because he definitely had some powerful insights for sure.
That's cool.
We also got, let's see, Abby Dyson's coming up. Also working on one for Mr. Robbie Hampton about like
Cool.
doing tricking and his experience in multidisciplinary martial arts.
nice.
Yeah.
I have a buddy of mine that gave me some financial advice 20 some odd years ago, and I completely ignored it. But when I finally had my little awakening or whatever a couple of years ago, all this information just popped back in and I remembered it. And so he's very successful in the fundraising and financial world.
Cool.
And I kind of want to have that. You gave me this stuff and I ignored it for so long, but it was truth back then and it's gold now. And if we could if we could get people to pick up on it now, they won't have a bunch of acorns in 20 years. They'll have giant oak trees in their yard.
I love
Right.
it. On board.
Proverbially.
That's so cool.
Yeah, proverbially.
Love it.
Yeah. See, I can't even talk. I get so excited about this stuff. All right, so those are the ones that are going on or that are currently in production. And I'm also trying to bounce around to the different schools and get people from various backgrounds so that it's, got a lot of diversity in there.
Yeah. Love it.
I like it.
Good. So that's what we're going on with that. So let's talk about UpLevel in the age of coronavirus. I was purposefully trying to avoid timely information like this or dated information like this on the podcast, but you can't ignore it. So tell me what's going on.
You mean coronavirus is going to go away one day?
I hope.
Yeah, we hope that if you're listening to this in a year, it is dated, right? Like that would be our goal.
So what are some of the challenges that you guys have faced as a administrative staff and as the owners and directors?
Yeah,
lead instructors, I should say.
Yeah, for sure. I'll dive in first, and then I'll defer to Mr. William Wiegert to give some of his thoughts. And I think I'd like to take kind of a two-part little thing on this. One, I'll share some of the challenges, and then I'll share just maybe a little bit of content that could help people that are going through it. Because the truth is, it's right. It's scary, and it's anything. It's just. I think a lot of people are scared, and I like to think of myself as somebody that doesn't get affected by this that much. I don't listen to the news a lot, and I'm not in the age bracket that this coronavirus is normally attacking, if you will. And so for me, however, even for me, all the ramifications of this, whether it's economical, the things that could happen to our economy, all that's even that has been getting to me. So I found myself more stressed. I found myself under more pressure. Not to mention that we shut literally all 7 of our schools down. And it's one of those tough things because it's like, hey, we really want to be open, May 1st probably is would be a great date, but you don't know that for sure, right? So we're just trying to provide as much value to our students as we possibly can virtually, whether it's one-on-one private lessons, virtually, whether it's through the class experience. But I do, I wanted to say this. I read this book a long time ago, and I thought it's been helpful for me in several situations. It's called Man's Search for Meaning, and it's about this guy who lived in the Nazi concentration camps. And he has a really interesting thought, and I'm just throwing this out there as to provoke some thoughts. He said that the people who ended up dying in the Nazi concentration camp, and I am not drawing a parallel between coronavirus and the Nazi concentration camps. I think the Nazi concentration camps were way worse. However, at the same level, like we are experiencing this globally, right? So he said the people who died in the Nazi concentration camps were the optimists. They were the people that would say things like, oh, we'll be out by next week. Like the Allies, they're going to come. They're going to get us by next week. And next week would come, and next week would go. And then they'd be like, oh, no. Like by the end of the month, the Allies, they're going to come. They're going to get us. And the end of the month would come, and the end of the month would go. And he said these guys died of a broken heart. They died in the camps because they were just like, he said the guys who survived were like, hey, we don't know how long it's going to be, but we're going to prepare and we're going to do the best we can with what you're, and we're going to try to find some meaning amidst all of this craziness. And so I don't know if he would call himself a pessimist, but even as all this coronavirus stuff happened, at first I was disappointing myself because I was like, oh, next week this is going to be over. 2 weeks this is going to be over. And I think just to recognize, like, hey, it may get actually tougher. Like just some of the fundamentals of our economy. Our economy may get very, very difficult. We could head for a global recession. We could head for a global depression. We don't even know what that would look like. And that's not, I'm not saying that to scare people, because I think there are a lot of people out there that just want to, you know, they make money off the hype, or they make money off the fear. It's not a fear thing. It's just like, are you preparing for the worst? Are you hoping for the best? So at UpLevel, that's what I've really been coaching my team on. Hey, are we preparing for the worst? Are we preparing to come out of this and maybe business not be as good on the other side of this as it was a couple of weeks ago, you know? How do we as an organization hunker down and prepare? So I'd encourage the families, people listening to this, to kind of do the same thing. Like, hey, it's great to think, this will be over in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4, 5, you know, however many weeks you're putting into that number for you. But what does it look like on the other side? And are you creating a plan for your health? Are you creating a plan for your finances? Mr. Guyton, you mentioned that. Are you creating a plan for your relationships during this time? Because the truth is, we're cooped up with these people more than my wife and I have fought. I love my wife to death, but we have fought more in the last 3 weeks because we're with these, you know, than we have in a long, long time. So are you creating a plan for that? Do you have a plan for those different areas of your life? I think being somewhat of a mini pessimist is okay in this situation. So that's my spiel. Yeah.
Okay. Mr. William Wiegert, you have any thoughts?
What you got to say about all of that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that was a great overall picture. I heard on the news the other day, I think it was about 1,800 cases or 1,800 deaths from this thing. And from perspective, and I understand that this is maybe we're doing everything we can to fight it, but 1,800 deaths is about half of how many people die from just car crashes each day, right? And this has been going on for how long? So if you put in perspective, it's kind of like, wow, like, you know, in the grand scheme of things, obviously it's a bad situation. But I think the biggest thing for most people that's going to affect them is, I agree, the shutdown of the economy, but also just the fear. And I think, you know, they say fear weakens the immune system and all these other things. So I think that's kind of a part of it. There's a lot of talk, a lot of watching the news, which I turned on for a second the other day and quickly shut it off. It was just like, oh, I don't need to hear this right now. And so I like what Mr. Samriot said of kind of expecting this to continue and like, okay, how can I make the best of the situation now? And almost make a new lifestyle, knowing and hoping that it will change eventually. But for now, hunker down and be like, this is how I'm gonna act now. What can I spend my new time on, and things like that. So from a karate instructor front, I've had a little bit more time than I normally do. So I've been thinking about, okay, how can I make sure to stay active? And I've been practicing some things that I want to get better at, and I've been reading and also just enjoying the relaxation time. And it's been really cool. I've gotten some emails and some texts from students being like so appreciative of what we've been doing with online classes. And I have to give Mr. Sam Wiegert a lot of credit for leading the UpLevel team so well and confidently. And so I think the first thing is just like, you know, put it in perspective. It's obviously we need to make sure that this thing doesn't spread. So I think the isolation and the is good, but also twice as many people die a day from car crashes. And how scared are we to go outside and to drive a car, right? Again, not saying to not isolate or do the things that the doctors are saying. I think that's fantastic. And I think also, setting a kind of a new lifestyle during this time and being confident with that. And yeah.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Jane?
That splendid isolation that we're enjoying right now, I've really enjoyed it. I mean, we spend time as a family now, you know, playing the Nintendo Switch or breaking out Chutes and Ladders. And these are trends that I hope continue for many, many years. I saw a meme pop up on Facebook. You know, I've deleted the app on Facebook, but I do check it periodically. And one of the memes was from a dear friend of mine who's a early education in special ed. He's an educator in special education for elementary school. And it was basically, you know, what does this look like in 2030? And it was, you know, it's like flash forward to 2030, and it showed a parent saying like, oh, we were so scared, we were so this, and we were, you know, running out of this or running out of that, and it was a trying time. And then it showed from the 18-year-old's perspective, and it was like, Oh, it was such a great time. It almost felt like Christmas. I got to sleep
Right.
in. We spent time as a family. We went for family walks.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
it's an optimism
That's so cool.
in the age of in a time that you can easily revert to being a pessimist or
Mm,
whatever. There is a silver lining to this, and if we can hold on
yes.
to that hope and make a plan for our new future self. And I was thinking about it the other day, like, I drink way too much beer for my own good. I've shared that with Mr. William Wiegert a few times. Um, but like, I could take this time and roll down to the store and grab a case of beer and stick it in the fridge and sit here and play video games all day. Or I can make the most of it and make some healthy habits, start exercising, or keep exercising, I should say. And, like today I'm going out probably for like a 3 mile jog, and
Nice.
taking this time to spend in that, what I call the splendid isolation and solitude, to figure out what I want my next or the future version of Jason to be.
Mm,
So
I agree. A silver
Yeah.
lining for sure.
yeah, absolutely.
Well said, sir. Well
Thank
said.
you. Thank you. See, I think I had a couple more points I wanted to ask about. All right. So
Yeah, well,
go ahead.
while you're looking up that, I mean, I just encourage our listeners to make sure that they are jumping on the online classes. Make sure you're taking them twice per week. You can invite friends. You can send out. We have a link that we'll probably be sending out next week where people can get their friends to register for the class. And there's a lot of things we're going to be doing. We've pivoted pretty hard and pretty fast, and the UpLevel staff have been really amazing during this time in getting these things up and going. So we're excited about where this will go in the future. We think there's a lot of really great stuff happening.
Yeah, the ability that I've seen just from an outsider looking in, not really an outsider since I take the class, but being a
Sure.
student and not in the administrative or instructor side of
Yeah.
UpLevel, you've adapted, you've modified, and you've like just changed on the fly. And it's been very impressive to watch.
Yeah.
And I know from my experience with my small little side business, that's not an easy thing to do. And for
Sure.
you guys to do that as a staff in seven different locations, multiple instructor level employees, it's been phenomenal to watch. So kudos back to
Yeah.
you guys.
Cool. Thanks. That's good to hear from the outside, a little bit more from the outside. That's great. We're working hard. We're working hard to create something really amazing.
Cool. All right. Well, let's focus on something that I didn't know before I started the podcast. And what I didn't realize until I spoke with Mr. Ben Bond down at Waxhaw when I did his interview is that Charlottesville is not on the same cycle as the 704 schools or the Charlotte area schools. So Mr. William Wiegert and Tim Wiegert, the director here in Charlottesville, made a video announcement this week about the way it's going to work for Charlottesville, hopping on the same rotation and all the schools coming together. So Mr. William Wiegert, can you go into a little bit more like you did in the announcement video?
Yes, totally. So there's 3 different classes. You've got beginner, intermediate, and advanced. All of them have the specific rotations that they cycle through. And Charlottesville is not in sync with Charlotte until now. So we knew that when we did make the change, it would be a little bit of a, oh no, someone's going to have to repeat a cycle, or it's going to be different curriculum kind of in the middle of a cycle or something like that. So we just made the switch, as now is definitely going to be the best time. And it's something that we've wanted to do for many reasons. We have a vision of a big graduation with across all the schools in a football stadium or something like that. And so Charlottesville being the only school that was off the cycle made it difficult to maybe have the same camaraderie in the UpLevel community, where someone could be posting, oh, I'm working on my tornado kicks or something, and then Charlottesville wouldn't resonate with that or whatever it is there. So we're excited to make a switch. It's pretty much just going to be an extra month of practice for the beginner and advanced groups, because we're actually end up being on the exact same cycle. Lucky enough, we're just kind of restarting the cycle. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Intermediate students are transferred to a different cycle. And in my mind, it's not a problem at all. I mean, our goal, it's not necessarily about the destination, it's about the journey, right? So they got some extra practice on a rotation that they'll need to know anyways to get their black belt at some point. So it's kind of like, you'll just be better prepared when the time comes around again. And again, we do have to restart that 1 month. So maybe it wasn't focused practice time this last month, but it'll be really cool in my mind to all be on the same cycle and to have all the instructors be teaching the same thing, and our class videos will be more in sync across the board, things like that. So I think it's a great change.
Okay. So as an intermediate student, I'm, recently became a brown belt, and I think I have like 6 stripes on it right
Nice.
now. That's not including the 2 that I've earned from taking the online classes. So I guess I'm at 8. So
Nice.
come
Perfect.
next week, it's basically like a reset. Like can I keep those 8 stripes? Do those just kind of go away? My
Great question.
my practice that I've been doing for my Universal 5, do I just kind of, keep practicing Universal 5, of course, but kind of don't need that until another cycle for 5 comes around?
Right. Great question. So 2 parts to that. The first is the black stripes. For example, if you have 6 black stripes and graduation comes around and you don't have enough classes to graduate, so the next cycle you need not 12, but only 6 more black stripes in order to graduate. So the black stripes do transfer over and you keep those. Now, granted, if you had, let's say, 11 black stripes, and great, I only need 1 more and I got 2 months to get it done. Cool. Technically, you could only take 1 class. And you also need to test on the rotation 7 grabs and universals. So it's like, hey, make sure to still get your classes and make sure you can test out, the stuff. But also that those black stripes do transfer over. So you only need, the remainder of the black stripes to hit 12. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not starting from scratch.
Correct, exactly. Black stripe wise, we do have a full another 2 months, and we will need to retest on different curriculum that we haven't taught you just yet. It's in the coming weeks. So it will be a different universal and it will be a different grabs. Any time that you put into Universal 5, again, awesome. You'll need to know that for your black belt test anyway. So it's kind of like it's in your subconscious even more now, but we will need to switch over to practicing something different.
Okay, great.
Yes.
And two, it was the Charlotte schools were actually not all on the same rotations either.
I didn't know.
When we made this switch, there was almost a bunch of the other schools had to actually jump on the same rotation. So it was a decent switch for a bunch of the schools down here in Charlotte too. But yeah, 100% moving forward will be way more synced up, and there will be so many cool benefits. I mean, graduation days will be on the same day. We can sync up more on the graduation stuff.
Tournaments as well.
Tournaments, curriculum will be like almost exactly like everybody will be doing the same curriculum. That's the same belt rank across the whole organization. And obviously any new schools we open or anything like that, we'll sync them right up with that. So that's just definitely changed. Super cool. Yeah. From a lot of different standpoints. So good description though, Mr. William Wigger.
Thank you, sir.
Now, what does it mean for me as a Charlottesville student and an intermediate student, or Charlottesville students, not necessarily intermediate, but all of us during this quarantine time? What do we need to do in order to keep getting our stripes and being there in the classes? I think I saw something. This is my first time here actually doing Zoom. So how do you see that working, and like what's the schedule of classes and things like that?
Great question. Yes. So 2 things. Number 1, we have UpLevel Martial Arts YouTube channel, and all of the classes are going to be posted at a specific time. And that schedule we had sent down an email and Facebook and things like that. And so I have my Zoom code that I'm going to be on at the class time. And as people join, you'll be watching the class somewhere in front of you and have a second device, whether it's a phone, tablet, computer, set up so I can watch. And then everyone will be kind of muted, practicing, just following along the class as normal. And I know Mr. Sam Wiggert's mentioned a couple times during the classes he teaches, he's going to give breaks for the students to come to their instructor and for us to actually give feedback and tips and, hey, practice that, and hey, you practice that, and you practice that. So pretty much as much of a class feel as you can possibly give over Zoom. I think we're doing it.
Okay.
So Sam, any additional thoughts there?
No, yeah, exactly. Like the class schedule, everybody should have the class schedule, and then this next week, everybody will send out their individual Zoom link to their students, and they'll just log in on Zoom if they want that piece. They don't have to do that piece, but if you want, that live coaching feedback while you're taking the class from YouTube, then yeah, you've got to have 2 devices. But we just feel like it's going to be the best way, because that way you'll get the instruction, and then that instructor from the other device will be able to say, hey, keep those toes pointed, and there'll be a bunch of people on that instructor's screen, but they'll be able to see you. And then, when in the class videos, when I say go see your instructor, you'll run over to whoever's watching you on Zoom and go over to that little camera and talk to them. So it could be a little clunky first week or two, but we will get used to it. Everybody make sure they're taking classes twice per week. Make sure you have the schedule, make sure you're inviting friends, get on there and keep training. And then after you're done, you post a picture of yourself taking the class to your school's private Facebook group. And if you happen to not be on Facebook, you can email it or text it to your instructors. But most of our students are putting it in that private Facebook group, and they're just putting the date on it. Facebook already puts the date on it. So all you have to do is just say something about the class, snap a picture of you guys training, and then you're good to go. That's your virtual stripe for that day. When you get back in class, you will have real stripes.
Now, who will be the instructors that are actually presenting the curriculum? Will that be Mr. William Wiegert and Mr. Tim Wiegert, Mr. Donald Bushy, or will we be sampling from all the different schools depending on the lesson?
So I'm leading, because we're shooting all the filming down here in Charlotte. That's where our film team and our editing team is. Then I will be doing most of the curriculum, but I am pulling in different instructors. Like last week we had Mr. Tager come. Last week we had several other instructors be the head instructors. And Mr. William Wiegert and Mr. Tim Wiegert will come down and film eventually when the time is right. But yeah, it'll be a mixture of different instructors, which is one of the really good benefits. You'll get to learn the energy and the different things that different instructors think are important, whereas you normally didn't have an opportunity to do that.
Yeah,
great.
It's kind of like a mixed dog, right? They're always the strongest because they have the strengths from all the different breeds. So it's the same thing here. You got all the strengths from the different instructors.
Perfect analogy.
Nice.
Great. Well, I think our normal questions when we're in a podcast are, what do you feel as a black belt leader? But I think we've got that pretty well covered between the two of you. And so do you have any, either one of you have any closing thoughts for the community?
I think I just want to shout out again, Mr. Sam Wiegert and the UpLevel team. I think we're improvising and we're changing and we're growing and doing some really cool things during this time. And I love still being able to give value and being part of someone or a team or a company that can still provide so much value during, a quote unquote crisis.
Yeah, huge. Keep up the good work. Big thanks to all the UpLevel community that have been supporting each other, showing so much love to each other. I mean, the truth is, it's a tough time for everybody. It's going to be a tough time for a lot of people. So I know a lot of our students are continuing, they're continuing to be students. They're continuing to pay their tuition. They're continuing to do everything they're doing. And obviously a lot of our programs, if you miss any time, we add that time off at the end of your program. So you always have the program up until whatever belt rank you've committed to. But that's really important during this time as we continue to pay our staff and continue to do the best that we can as a business through this time. So I want to give a big shout out to all of our students. Thank you so much for everything you've been doing to support UpLevel. Thank you so much for everything you've been doing to support each other. And thanks for continuing to train. I mean, the mark of a true leader, right? Like, you might get distracted, but you're not off course. And I think there's so many people, hundreds of people taking these classes every week already, posting these pictures. They're blowing up my phone all the time with them. And so it's so cool to see that our community is so strong in their goal and their desire to become black belt leaders. They haven't let this knock them off course. They're still training. And so this is going to take it to a new level. So keep the good work, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Guyton. Thank you so much for everything you're doing to support the community and what we're doing. Thank you, Mr. William Wiegert, for running and just being a big leader there in Charlottesville. And this is going to take us to the next level. We really believe the online thing is going to help us become more of a United States/global community versus just the 3 to 5 miles around each location. I mean, this will catapult us to the next level. And I've kind of been sharing with my staff. I think we're in a race to do that. I think we're going to get there as fast as we possible. We got about a month or 2 months, let's do it. So we've been doing the best we can.
Wonderful, gentlemen. Well, thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Guyton. Appreciate you, sir.
You guys have a great rest of your day.
Cool.
You as well.
See you soon.